right, here is the video review for Studio Series 37, Constructicon Rampage, the first of the 8 figures that will actually combine, that actually transform and will combine to form the movie Devastator. And I am not a super big fan of the movie Devastator design as it ended up being on screen. There were a couple of concept shots, I've been looking at them today, of Devastator that I kind of liked, and I don't know, and he may have looked like that in the movie, but we never really got a good shot of him because he was constantly climbing up pyramids and stuff. I don't know. But one of the things I will point out is, like, the toys are really fun. Like, I mean, like, Transformers has always, for me, been, while I have enjoyed several media interpretations of them, I've always, like I said, and I think I've mentioned this in a couple of panels at conventions and maybe even some of my previous videos, but like Transformers, the appeal to me has always been that spatial relationship puzzle that everyone is, like how they just keep finding different ways to turn, even in some cases, similar vehicles into robots. Like, how many different times have we seen movie Optimus with different transformation schemes? That's what the appeal of them to me. So while I'm not a huge fan of the overall Devastator silhouette when he's combined, the toys have been pretty fun, and so I decided to take a chance on this guy. Granted, this is the first Constructicon we've gotten, but the Studio Series line has actually had some fun toys. I've gotten some characters that I probably would not have cared enough about to pick up just based on the movie, but the toys are fun. Before we get into the transformation on this guy, point out just one thing on the box. One, he does have on the side here, instead of an Autobot or Decepticon logo, he's got a picture of Devastator on one side of the box, himself on the other. But then instead of the Autobot or Decepticon logo, he's got like a Devastator face here in this window, which I think is kind of cool. And when you slide out the included backdrop, you can see it's just a... Let's see if I can get this vertically here. You can see it's just Devastator's face. So presumably the Constructicons will have that on their box to delineate that they are in fact part of Devastator. Now, we saw both in the original toy line when we started getting Constructicons, even though they didn't combine, we did get this mold, the mold of this character in both the red and yellow color schemes. And I went back and watched some movie clips today, and I'm fairly certain that the version of this that combined with Devastator was in fact the yellow version. I think we saw the red one hopping around in the desert during the fight. There were lots of duplicates of several character models in that movie. But this is apparently the official one. Even in the instructions, it shows that he goes right here on the foot. So maybe we'll eventually get a yellow version of this one if you want to have that option. But officially, it looks like this red guy is going to be part of the overall Devastator, and you can see the 8 names and where they go. Like, this arm is Rampage is a Voyager, Long Haul is going to be a Voyager, Scrapper, who forms most the entirety of the right arm, is going to be a Voyager, and Mixmaster, who forms the head part, is going to be a Voyager. Scavenger and Overload, who form the main torso, are both going to be leaders, and then Hightower and Scrap Metal are 2 deluxes that form the left arm. So that's where the 8 come in. So we've got 4 Voyagers, 2 deluxes, and 2 leader class figures that are going to make up Devastator. So one of the first things when I saw pictures of this guy was, what is this thing in the front? Does something plug in there? Because there's a little hole there that looks like you could plug something in there. And that you might be able to use a flight stand there. You might be able to plug something in to support him if you don't want to... Actually, that's probably what that's for, is for a stand to support him if you don't want to use the included little flippy out foot piece, which we'll show off. But what this piece actually is, aside from that, is it raises and lowers this little rolling wheel, because the treads do not work. But what's really neat is you've got this little piece that pops down to allow that front wheel to roll. And even these wheels in the treads snap into 2 different settings inside the arm. One extended, so they're extended through the treads, so when you have him in vehicle mode, he can roll freely and not just slide across a surface. Like his wheels he actually rolls on these wheels. But then in foot mode and robot mode, that has a separate setting that snaps up further into the arm so it's not exposed. And then in foot mode, obviously, you don't want Devastator skating around on one foot, so you can retract the wheels. So so he doesn't skip around. It was just kind of an ingenious way of how to make him roll without functioning treads and without just being a scrape him across the surface. That's actually pretty genius. So we'll go ahead and start this off. We'll go ahead and just pop that up. You can either use this lever or push it up right there. And then come out here. We're going to untab these little pieces right here. You kind of rotate them down, but unsnap these tabs right here. And then you can fold these up against the scoop. Pull the treads down and pop out this piece. You can store this in foot mode, but it sticks out a little bit, but it does store under the trailer. And then flip out this other little foot. That's going to be like basically his stand that allows him to sit upright since he's kind of a pogo stick robot. So flip those out. Come back here, untab these from up here. They're tabbed in the slots. And you can close these little slots to cover up those tabs here on the body. You can go ahead and swing the arms all the way out to the side. You see him already starting to come together. Bend him down at the waist here. Lift his head up. Like that. And then underneath here, flip out his little pogo sticky part so he can get around. And then the arms, bring these down. Go ahead and take this piece. Actually, want to open this up like this. Bring this piece around. It's going to be one of his outer fingers. Like I said, this whole assembly can rotate right here around this gear. Fold his fingers in. Then on the back, the treads are on flexible hinges, so you can have them. You can have them flat. You can have them hanging wide. However you want to do it with the treads. Leave this sticking out to the side. And then right here, untab this piece from here. Bring it around. It's going to be the other finger on his hand. And here's what I'm talking about. If you lift the tread all the way up, this little piece, you untab it. There's a little tab inside there on this piece. And inside here, there's two different positions. Up here and there at the top. And that basically allows it to tab in and be in extended position to stick through the tread when it's in tractor mode. And then in the other mode, you just pop it out, push it down a little further, clip it back in. And now see when you close the tread up on it, it still comes through the tread, but it's even with the actual tread on the tread, so it doesn't roll. Because you can hide that, and it'll keep him from slipping around in Devastator mode. So just like that, bring out his fingers. You can pose his fingers however you want. He's got some. You can rotate here. You can rotate here. His little fingertips move, and these double fingertips here are one piece. Yeah, so there's one arm, and it's just the same on this side. Rotate this past there and around, collapse the wheel in, snap it back into place, and again, put the tread however you want it. You can tab this from here, bring it down and around, open that up, and there he is in his bouncy robot mode again. Just bouncing, bouncing, bouncing. Now this is straight. He looks a lot more dynamic if you hunch him over a little bit. This is part of his leg joint, but you can get him in more of a hunchy, bouncy pose. You can rotate his arms, and then he does actually, one direction he actually does kind of have an elbow, but it's just that. Okay, so, but you can rotate here. There's a hinge right here, and rotating, and depending on how you rotate that, you can, if you rotate that around this way, you can give him more of some forward elbow movement, although his hands are upside down. Oh, actually, no. You can rotate him around just below that, so if you want to have him reaching forward to grab something, you can do it. Although his elbow is basically way up here by his torso, and you kind of have to have his shoulder come forward in order to use it as well. Let me get this back in a semi-decent position. So yeah, so you can pose the treads. His head's on a ball joint and can look around. It's on a ball joint up here, and then also on a hinge right here, so he can look side to side as well as up and down here. Yeah, so you can bounce around like that, and you can, like I said, if you wanted to use like some sort of figure stand to plug in there to support him, you could, but you can also use the stand that's included with him and plug it on like this. Somebody said he should have a pen in there, and I feel like I have some pen nibs that might fit in there, so you could turn them into like, it'd be a weird writing utensil, but you could totally put the right kind of pen nib in there and just write with him if you wanted to. Just write a letter to your mom. She misses you. But anyway, plug this in. And like I said, this piece can bend, so you can get a few different little action poses. You can swing his arms around however you want. And unless you start getting like super extreme on limb extension, this stand will probably be enough to hold him in place, and depending on how you rotate it well. Because if you hold it like this, he's going to flip forward. But if you rotate it so it's like that, he's a little bit more tolerant of forward heavy poses. So yeah, I'll just give him a quick turnaround here. Not as super clean as the robot mode in the movie, because he does have like the whole cabin of the tractor sitting here on the back of his bouncy bits. But he's kind of a cool robot, very, very distinctive. Here he is with his wave mate. These are the two Voyagers that come together, the Bumblebee Optimus and Rampage. Lift this up a little bit here. And here he is with the actual, can combine with Jetfire from Revenge of the Fallen battle, just to give you an idea. He's like not as tall, at least at the head, but just about as massive, if not maybe a little bit more, than the Voyager Optimus Prime. Before we forget, and go on to something else, here he is with his pyramid backdrop. It's a different pyramid battle scene than we saw with Jetfire. So that's kind of cool. And you can stand him in there. So he's at the Battle of the Pyramids, if you want. And then going on to his leg mode, we'll go ahead and we'll take this off. Now, like I said, you can store this under there, and I'll show that off. But this you just kind of want to set off to the side. So anyway, to transform him, we will we'll take this again. Make sure these are collapsed down. Actually, you need to you want them to eventually be collapsed down, but lift these up. So come out here, lift his head up. Make sure that's collapsed. Lift this up. Rotate. Make sure all this is lined up straight. Rotate this whole assembly, this upper tread assembly here, and then take this piece, flip the piece around to the other side, and then rotate it this way. And also make sure that this is, you have to, in order to flip it, you have to make sure this is closed up all the way. So then rotate it in and snap it into place over on this side like that. And then you can go ahead and collapse this all the way down. Again, plugging this into the lower position there on the tread. Same over here. Rotate this out, flip this up, flip it over, rotate this all the way around through here. We need to move this piece to get around it, and then again tab this in at its lowest point. Come around here, go ahead and fold his little tippy bit in. Fold his feet in like this. Actually, you want these facing down, not all the way down, but like so. The gray pieces come in like that. This piece is going to come up and sit about as flat as you can get it with this piece pushed in. So you can kind of wiggle it in like that. Same here. Just bring this along flat up against here. And again, make sure this piece is all the way flat. Okay, I guess that's right. Then fold. I'll rotate this around. The tread will lock it in a minute. This piece comes around and once again is going to lock in right here. Bring this, fold this in like this. Fold this in. Again, there's a little tab that goes into the slot here, but just lock that in place. Make sure that's all together. Bring it in. So basically, so the treads are facing almost like full tractor mode, but now that this upper piece has been flipped around. Leave his head down here. And then these two pieces, these are going to tab in. The shoulders are going to tab in on these pegs, and then these two gray pieces are going to peg together here like this. And you can leave his head. You can leave his head under there. You can actually close these up with the head folded up. It's a little bit visible there, but you can kind of fold the head up into there if you don't want it staring at you underneath the bottom. And then you can go ahead and take these, bring this back down, tab this back over it. It's the same thing when you're going. Basically, you're turning him most of the way back into the vehicle mode, just with this in a different position and these treads flipped around. So flip this in and plug that together. There we go. And then fold this piece up, just like you would before. And again, you can see now the wheel is not sticking out, so it doesn't roll around on it. Make sure this wheel is up. Just like that, and then you take this piece and you kind of collapse it down. You can have it longer like this, but you kind of bend it back and then fold it down like this at the hinge, so it's collapsed like that. And then fold this piece up, this little ab piece. Now you can leave it like this if you just want to display him for whatever reason as a foot, so you don't see the connector bit. You can just have him sit like that. But this piece comes up, and the instructions show it sitting like this. Although I suspect with like facing forward and then up. Although I suspect in the final mode it may sit something like that, or you may connect and then this folds in and pegs in, because like there is a tab here, although that's mostly for this. But it may form a better connection to the upper body. But you can see here there's a slot here that the upper part, the thigh of Devastator is going to connect to it here. And what's neat is, on top of all the other things they've done with this guy, he actually does also have ankle tilt. So whichever leg you attach him to. And it's limited, although you can get a little bit more, maybe one more click out of it if you pop these off. These are not glued on. But it really is only designed for like top click, one click to the right, one click to the left. But he's going to have some ankle tilt, so when he's combined in Devastator, Devastator himself is going to have at least a modicum of posability. And just to give you an idea of about how big he is in leg mode, again, here is the Voyager Optimus Prime. So where he actually connects is down here, although there will be a thigh above this, but it's not like this is going to be the whole lower half. But it's a pretty sizable foot. So we'll see how it turns out. But there he is, less impressive now here as just this. But Constructicon Rampage from the Studio Series line, who will eventually become part of Devastator.